It's an honor to be here actually. Odisha is my home state and good to see that the Sambad group, the Socrates Foundation and Bakul Foundation is organizing such a phenomenal event and spreading awareness and disseminating knowledge on climate change. And inside climate change, when we are talking about that, finance is a very, very critical factor. Even not only, it's good to see that climate finance discussed at the state level, and some municipalities are also discussing how greening the municipal financing also. Climate finance is not a very, very new subject. If you talk at a global international platform, everybody is talking about finance. So since morning we are hearing climate smart agriculture, we are hearing water conservation, we are talking about industrialization. To achieve all whatever we have stated since morning or yesterday, we need a massive volume of capital all the time. So without capital, we cannot achieve anything. So that's the reason this session is organized. When we are talking about finance, it means that we are allocating money for particular activities to generate return on investment. But we need to differentiate. I think somebody has said that when we are trying to achieve all the climate goals, it's impossible for the public sector or the government to meet the funding of all climate change or climate action activities. It's impossible. It means that we need to attract a large scale of financing to meet our goals. For example, I think CEW has conducted a study, and the study said that we need around $40 to $43 billion of capital for Odisha's net zero or decarbonization effort by 2030. It means that we need $7 to $8 billion per annum. But if I see Odisha's total budget is close to $32 billion of money in 2025 and 26. We cannot expect that a significant portion of the money can go to climate actions because we have other priorities, we have other development priorities, maybe in education, maybe in healthcare, or many other activities. We cannot expect the government to put the entire public budget only on climate actions. So we need to think that, okay, what's the best use of the public money? Here we are talking about the government money. At the same time, we can attract private capital and blend with public capital so that we can accelerate the funding for climate actions. As we know that climate action is divided into two parts, climate mitigation, which is called, nowadays net zero goal or so, then climate adaptation. In the case of climate mitigation, like renewable energy or clean transportation, we spoke about green hydrogen because Odisha is taking several initiatives on green hydrogen. Okay, many of these activities are very, very private in nature. Okay, some of the activities or some of the technologies are commercially feasible. For example, renewable energy or clean transportation, more or less commercially feasible in most of the places in the world, including Odisha. But some segments in clean technologies, for example, green hydrogen, is not commercially feasible. We need to talk about that, how we need to accelerate financing for technologies which are not commercially feasible, as well as for technologies which are commercially feasible, but the volume of capital we are aspiring to attract is not enough. Then we'll also speak about climate adaptation. For a state like Odisha, climate adaptation is much more important than climate mitigation, even for net zero. If I see Odisha's GDP contribution to the country, it's close to 2.8% or 3%. Okay, so if I multiply with a simple arithmetic, Odisha's contribution to GHG emission is only 3%. Even if Odisha doesn't do anything on net zero, it doesn't matter actually to India's effort to reach. But it's good that Odisha is putting a serious effort to reduce carbon emission from its economy. It's more important for Odisha's effort because Odisha is a combination of agriculture and industrial economy. Services has not really flourished in a state like Odisha because you can see a number of steel or minerals, steel industries, and we have mining and minerals which are carbon intensive in nature. And these industries are exposed to a risk, both business risk and financial risk. So it is important for Odisha to decarbonize the industry, both agriculture as well as industries which are much more carbon intensive than services industry. Then secondly, when we are talking about climate adaptation, many times climate adaptation is not really commercially feasible. There are no business model, and it's often characterized by public goods. When we are talking about public goods, it means that the government will provide money. Okay, it's not the private sector who will bring capital for a public goods. It could be an elevated road, elevated bridge. It could be providing support to farmers. It could be restoring mangroves also in Odisha. Here we are not expecting the private investors to come in and put their capital. Since we understand that the volume of revenue we are going to generate by the beneficiaries will not be enough, many times there are no business model. It means that we need to think very cleverly and deploy some of the instruments smartly. We are going to use public capital at the same time, how to attract private capital. So today with us, Ms. Gunjan, Dr. Dhruba Purkayastha, and Dr. Amit Garg, he will speak more about that. And we are hoping that to get some answer how climate finance or how Odisha as a state can attract a massive volume of capital both for climate mitigation and more importantly for climate adaptation. So I'll start with you, Gunjan. CW has conducted a study, I believe, last year the study was released, and you spoke about that how transitioning to a green economy or achieving net zero will be attractive for Odisha's economy. It will create jobs. It will also add to economic growth to the Odisha. But at the same time, we also understand that it's not easy, okay? And everybody says that, okay, we need to attract private financiers all the time. So where do you see that there are investment opportunities and private actors can be serious about that in Odisha? Over to you.
Thank you. This is quite loud, and I'm generally a loud person, so I'll try and speak softly. Thank you for staying back until 6 o'clock as well. It's very humbling to be joined by such climate finance gurus in the panel. I'm nowhere close. But like Labanya was asking, according to me, there are 4 clear reasons what makes Odisha attractive for green investments. One is the industrial policy that Odisha itself has. I'm not sure how many of us know, but the industrial policy of Odisha allows for 30% capex rebate to any green enterprise or industry that is willing to set up shop in the state. In addition to the 30%, whatever is the capex an enterprise invests in, the GST will be returned over a period of 10 years, and I think they are flexible on that as well. So in a way, your capex gets adjusted. It is your OPEX that you're investing. So one is definitely a good industrial policy that is signaling to the private sector that Odisha is keen to attract green investments. Of course, there is a need to make it a little stronger. Let's think of making it more digital so that it's not one window, many doors. It helps by investor and entrepreneur trust that if this is something that the state government is offering, I will in fact be able to avail it. And the second, I think, in terms of lessons is also to understand a little bit about how are other states managing to attract these green entrepreneurs? How is Andhra or Gujarat or Tamil Nadu, how are they managing to attract investors? Is it because of how flexible land is? Because every other parameter Odisha has, cheap electricity, water access, and so on. The second point, so first is the IPR policy, and I'll be a little quick now. Second is, Odisha is really an industrial powerhouse, so to say. Jharsuguda, for example, it's an industrial hub onto itself. Odisha is rich with mines, which has attracted a lot of industries. How do we, in a green economy, think of something fresh and new where we can leverage the industries, which in turn will attract investments. So there's this concept called industrial symbiosis. It's new to India, but China has been doing a lot of it. Indonesia is thinking about it. Brazil is thinking about it. Here you co-locate where the raw waste of one industry becomes the raw material supply of another industry. So for example, steel. We have steel plants in Odisha. The heat that gets generated in cooling steel can be used as energy to treat used water. So what this does is that used water then can go back into the steel industry, right? This is something China's already doing. They're doing it to desalinate seawater. We can do it to reuse water, to treat used water. Steel slush is a good raw material for cement. It works as a good bonding agent. So similarly, we need to think through, given the industry that we have, what are some of the circular co-location industries that we can think of? And third is place-based finance, which is really the district mineral fund. Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, these states are lucky to have a good deposit in the DMF. And a lot of the DMF is going, of course, into infrastructure needs, roads, healthcare, education, and so on. But can we think of DMF funding to be channeled into say a cooperative model, right? That's not something we've been exploring so far. So a cooperative model to maybe run a biogas plant, a cooperative model for bio inputs, for sustainable tourism. So it's a matter of trying and piloting it, and it's possible. And lastly, and I'll stop there, the fourth opportunity is Odisha has a very strong civil society network that works to deliver a lot of public services. So can we leverage the civil society network that we have to attract philanthropic capital in a way that starts to build out social enterprises? So not just philanthropic capital as a pilot here and there, which is not what I'm saying Odisha does, but to shift that mindset and use philanthropic capital to de-risk that first investment that needs to go in. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of Araku coffee. It's online and all of that, and this is not a paid advertisement at all. But Araku Coffee received its first investment from the de-risking capital investment from the Rockefeller Foundation. So there are, similarly, I think Safe Harvest received it's a cooperative again, and it received its first de-risking investment from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So there is a lot of value in seeing philanthropy as offering that first de-risk capital. So yeah, these are my 4 points.
Thanks, Gunjan. Nice to hear from you about the kind of investment opportunities Odisha has. So I'll go to Dr. Garg because Dr. Garg has undertaken a massive study on net zero for India as well as the government of Gujarat as well. A couple of years back, I read both the research papers. Dr. Garg, I mean, you fairly understood the Odisha's economic structure and Odisha's net zero plan. So what do you think what could be the real climate finance model? Okay, many times people say that why don't you use innovative finance model? Sometimes as an academician, definitely you must be asking questions whether this kind of finance model are really useful, or we should go for public-private partnership, or we should go to the capital market, or still relying on commercial banks. So what should the pathway Odisha should follow? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very happy to be sitting here and addressing the August gathering. Before going into instruments, which are just maybe tools and instruments, before that, I will say that let us finalize and let us look at our state priorities, at Odisha state priorities, and all the things. So first thing that comes to my mind is traditional minerals. Odisha is very rich in iron ore and coal. these two things come to my mind very quickly. And we have big industry like Tata Steel has Dhen Canal and Jajpur district plants are there. So steel making is very important, and we should first focus on these, and these are the two industries which at least steel may not require government support, I would say, because these are big guys, Tata Steel, and they are planning to export to Europe. And there's a CBAM, border adjustment, carbon border adjustment mechanism which Europe is putting. So only the portion of steel which is sent to Europe has to be made green. Of course, all others we can make green if we have money. So let us make that green, and our steel export should not be suffering because of not being able to make green. So if Odisha, the Tata Steel or other plants are maybe sending X amount to Europe, that portion should be electric arc furnace or whatever green hydrogen, direct reduction of iron. That is for the company to decide. That is for the industry to decide. For coal, I think power generation using coal, transition is going to take one generation, that is 30 years. It is not possible, it cannot happen tomorrow. And in that case, I think Odisha, of course, we have to start diversifying to other sources that I will come in a moment. But I think coal is something which will remain, and Odisha is not alone in coal. There are other districts, about 4 or 5 districts nearby, states nearby, which are having coal dominance. So that is second thing. I think we should promote or also look at high-tech sectors. And high-tech sectors means sunrise sectors like electric vehicles, renewable energy, fintech, semiconductors, food processing, data centers. All these are required, and they are, I think, promoted. They have to be promoted to come to Odisha, like we see in Gujarat, we see in Goa. These sectors are being pushed. We see in Tamil Nadu. These sunrise sectors, rather than very traditional industries, are being pushed because we have manpower now, we have engineers, we have other people who can come. So EV, RE, fintech, semiconductors, food processing, and data centers. These are the 6 industries which should be supported by Odisha government. That is very much required. Then I think marine-based industry. Odisha has huge sea coast, so we should maybe look at shipbuilding, creation of ports. We should also look at those issues very actively. MSME. We have large number of small and micro enterprises which are in the supply chain of big industry. I would put a simple thing. Why can't big industries do hand-holding for these companies for reducing their credit period? Like if they are getting 60-day credit period or 90 days credit period, the big companies should provide them 10 days credit period. So more capital, more finance will come into circulation, and that will reduce the burden on MSMEs. That is required. And personally, I think green hydrogen, in my opinion, is still 10 years ahead to achieve that cost competency. So I think if we have short of government capital, my suggestion is not to invest in green hydrogen. I am not anti-green hydrogen, but let private sector come up there and ensure that there are sufficient private capital coming into. Otherwise, it is not very conducive. I think the last point is nuclear power. Odisha does not have nuclear plants, so I think we should do now. Small modular reactors are coming up. Government of India has given very specific guidance on them. India is about 8.6 gigawatt, which they want to increase to 100 gigawatt by 2047. Odisha should not miss the bus on this. And if you are going for data centers, you have to have some SMRs for ensuring that these data centers are net zero or zero energy. Also, I think when I was speaking about coal and iron ore, I think there is a very strong or very well understood term called miner's curse. So, like Odisha is a hotbed of mining. So, miner's curse is that it is being exploited by others. So, we have to be careful. We have to ensure that, okay, miner's curse we utilize. We are a part of India. We utilize, but also we put sufficient trust on sunrise sectors. Thank you very much. I stop here, then we'll discuss again.
And thank you, Dr. Garg. So I'll come back to you, Dr. Purkayastha. We discussed many times also financing climate adaptation, or sometimes we call climate resilience. One is that we need to invest a significant volume of money on climate resilient infrastructure. So I think RBI released a report a couple of years back. They said that India needs to invest around 2.5% of GDP only on climate resilient infrastructure by 2030. That is a significant volume of money at a national level. But if I see Odisha, so it will be much more than 2.5%, because I believe that Odisha as a state, which has around 580 kilometers of coastal lines, and we are witnessing the intensity of hurricane events and the frequency both are increasing year by year. And for last 5 years, Odisha is also facing this severe heat actually in the month of summer. So what do you think? How can we finance climate adaptation or climate resilience? Both of us know that most of them are public goods, and few segments are private goods, but private goods, I think it can be taken care by the private sector. Over to you, Dr. Purkayastha.
Good evening and thank you, and pleased to be here in this session. I've spent many years working on Odisha for industrial development and taking Odisha towards, I would say, from what Professor Garg called it, miners or resource curse, and which is I think he's very right in saying that we need to be careful. To start with, let me first express that I am completely in agreement with the approach Gunjan articulated. For all the sectors, the circularity parks, the models in which kind of businesses that need to be supported, promoted, and also the investment allowance that she mentioned about saying, if you are able to define green investments, then there is tax offset, there is investment allowance which used to exist 25 years ago any which way. Now, so all of these are, so the why we know of it to the need to transition, need to reach net zero, but I'll come to your question on saying financing, adaptation and resilience. Okay, just to explain it in context is, climate change creates adverse climate events, which may be cyclones and heat waves in Odisha, can be like landslides and glacial melts in Sikkim. So you have adverse climate events happening more frequently, urban floods more frequently and in higher severity, as Lavanya, you rightly and correctly mentioned. And therefore, if you actually look at evidences or evidence of data points, the number of hurricanes and cyclones, Odisha on the coastal side going up, heat waves, the number of days on under heat waves is going up, all of these have to be, mankind or humanity needs to cope up with this. This is one part which is, it may lead to some amount of disaster, but I'll make one data point here. If you look at a cyclone in Odisha in 2004, which killed 1 lakh plus people, the same grade on cyclone today does not kill even 10 people in Odisha. We are talking the same Odisha. We are talking of intensity of cyclone 20 years ago, and that speaks volumes. That speaks volumes of how our disaster management has coped up, which is about saving people, which is about, so there has been a lot of institutionalization, investment which has gone in, and also revenue expenditure which goes in. Now it brings us to a question of Lavanya asking in terms of resilient infrastructure, and Lavanya, you did give an example. I mean, what is resilient infrastructure in very simple terms? If you built a coastal road, let's say from Puri to Gopalpur or whatever that coastal road could be, that would need to be more resilient, or rather that would need to be a little more elevated and a little more stronger, which means that the investment is going up. Whether you need to build few more cyclone shelters, the investment is going up, and therefore, or maybe cool roofs, or maybe trying to increase the district cooling in terms of heat. So there is all of this, and it is extremely difficult to think of saying that people will pay for cyclone shelters, or consumers or customers will pay, and therefore Lavanya is correct in saying there will be more in the nature of public goods, and would need public finance to be allocated towards it, whether it is SAPCC or however way you do it. Now, I think there is an important element here of saying, is it private business? No, it is not private business, very clearly. Can it be private business out of human misery? Probably no. But can it be a public-private partnership? Can I concession this out in terms of a PPP, in terms of building this infrastructure? And India has got a huge experience in building infrastructure to public-private partnerships. And even if you cannot create a revenue model necessarily, there can be some amount of fees, charges, etc., allocations, which can be advertisement, can be got around it. But primarily, what you achieve is, you basically defer public expenditure over a longer period of time, and therefore what you're doing is, these are very standardized models called annuity models or hybrid annuity models, which can be brought about to think of. But the key lies in conceptualizing, identifying which project, which investments have to be, and that needs to form a part of SAPCC. And in trying to say that I do need to have mangroves yes, I do need to have mangroves, I need to restore mangroves. I'm not too sure whether Bhitarkanika has mangroves, but Bhitarkanika for sure has Oliver Ridley turtles, whether they are adapting to climate or not. But do I look at that as a private enterprise? Even if there is carbon mitigation out of it or climate mitigation out of it, I would tend to be more inclined towards saying they have to be necessarily public institutional approaches, which can have private sector participation, but not private capital wanting to make necessarily returns over here.